Michelle Yeoh's Section 31 movie brings back two classic aliens. Star Trek forgot an exciting aspect of Star Trek. Section 31 is how Paramount Plus' first Star Trek streaming movie brings back two largely forgotten classic aliens. Directed by Olatunde Sunsoni and written by Craig Sweeney, Star Trek Section 31 marks the return of Michelle Yeoh as Emperor Philippa Georgiou. As Yeoh reprises her iconic anti-heroine from Star Trek Discovery, Georgiou is joined by a new cast of characters whose names are yet unknown. However, a couple of Section 31's characters' species have been revealed, and they are updating aliens Star Trek hasn't used in years. Star Trek Section 31 involves time travel that lands Emperor Georgiou in the early 24th century of Star Trek's Lost Era, the time period between the end of Star Trek, the original series in the late 23rd century and the mid-24th century that launched with Star Trek The Next Generation, has only been fleetingly depicted, mostly through flashbacks. Georgiou arriving in Star Trek's Lost Era offers an intriguing opportunity to explore classic characters such as Rachel Garrett, Casey Roll, the younger version of the doomed captain of the USS Enterprise C seen in Star Trek The Next Generation. Fascinatingly, Star Trek Section 31 brings back these two classic aliens as well. Humberly Gonzalez plays a Deltan in Star Trek Section 31. Star Trek's original Deltan, Lieutenant Ilia, was played by the late Persis Khambatta in Star Trek The Motion Picture. Lt. Ilia was the navigator of the USS Enterprise under the command of Admiral James T. Kirk, William Shatner, when they intercepted the massive spacecraft called VGR. Ilia was killed by VGR and replaced with an identical artificial version of the Deltan. The Ilia probe and the Deltan's human lover, Captain Willard Decker, Stephen Collins, merged with VGR and ascended to become a higher life form. Deltans are known for being bald and for being a sexually charged culture. In fact, Ilia pledged an oath of celibacy upon joining Starfleet. Deltans became the prototype for the Betazoids, the species Star Trek The Next Generation's counselor Deanna Troi, Marina Sirtis, hails from. Although Lt. Ilia was the best-known Deltan from the first Star Trek movie in 1979, but Deltans did briefly return in Star Trek Picard Season 2's premiere when Soji, Issa Briones, and Dr. Agnes Jurati, Alison Pill, met with Deltans on Raritan 4. Humberly Gonzalez's Deltan in Star Trek Section 31 will introduce Deltans to a new Star Trek audience. Sam Richardson plays a Chameleoid in Star Trek Section 31. The lone Chameleoid in Star Trek before Sam Richardson's shapeshifter is Marcia, played by Iman in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. Marcia was among the prisoners of the frozen Klingon penal planet Rura-Pen, where Captain James T. Kirk and Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy, DeForest Kelley, were sentenced. Marcia conspired with the Klingons to have Kirk murdered while trying to escape, but the Chameleoid was disintegrated by the Klingon warden. Iman made a striking impression in Star Trek VI, but Chameleoids were backburned by the introduction of Constable Odo, Renee Auberjonois, in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Odo was from a race of liquid-based shapeshifters called the Founders, who ruled the Dominion in the Gamma Quadrant. The prominence of the villainous Dominion in DS9 and Star Trek Picard Season 3 meant Chameleoids were forgotten for decades, but Sam Richardson will bring the classic changeling back in Star Trek Section 31. Michelle Yeoh's much-anticipated return to Star Trek in the upcoming Section 31 movie promises a thrilling blend of espionage, political intrigue, and classic Star Trek adventure. But aside from Yeoh's powerhouse portrayal of Emperor Philippa Georgiou, the film is also set to reintroduce two classic alien species that many fans may have forgotten, the Suliban and the Xindi. These two alien races were integral to Star Trek Enterprise, the prequel series that explored humanity's first steps into deep space. However, after the show's end, both races faded into obscurity. The return of these iconic aliens in Section 31 is not only exciting for longtime fans, but also signals a deeper exploration of Star Trek lore. The Suliban, masters of genetic manipulation. The Suliban are perhaps best known for their role in the temporal Cold War, a major storyline in Star Trek Enterprise. This race of humanoid aliens was genetically enhanced by an unknown entity from the future, granting them abilities like shapeshifting, enhanced strength, and superior agility. Led by the shadowy Cabal, the Suliban were often portrayed as antagonists, particularly in the early seasons of Enterprise. Their actions were driven by orders from their mysterious benefactors, who were using them as pawns in a complex, time-spanning conflict. While the temporal Cold War storyline concluded in Enterprise, the Suliban's genetic manipulation technology left a lasting impression on the Star Trek universe. However, since the conclusion of Enterprise, the Suliban haven't been seen or mentioned in any significant capacity in subsequent Star Trek series or films. Their absence from the larger Star Trek canon made it seem as though they were relegated to the sidelines of Trek history. That changes with Section 31. The film's focus on secret intelligence and shadowy operations makes it the perfect setting for the Suliban to re-emerge. Their skills in stealth and genetic engineering would make them invaluable assets, or dangerous enemies, in the kind of covert operations Section 31 specializes in. Emperor Yeoh, a character with a penchant for manipulation and control, would certainly find their abilities either a useful tool or a significant threat. It is easy to imagine a scenario where the Suliban, once again manipulated by forces beyond their control, find themselves caught in the crossfire of Section 31's morally ambiguous missions. The Xindi, a fractured coalition rebuilt. The Xindi are another race largely forgotten by the wider Star Trek franchise, but were central to one of Enterprise's most ambitious storylines. The Xindi were a multi-species coalition consisting of 5 distinct subspecies: the Xindi humanoids, Xindi reptilians, Xindi insectoids, Xindi arboreals, and Xindi aquatics. Initially presented as enemies of Earth, the Xindi were responsible for a devastating attack on Earth in the 22nd century, which set the stage for the 3rd season of Enterprise. What made the Xindi so unique in the Star Trek universe was their internal diversity and political complexity. The various Xindi subspecies had conflicting interests, often leading to internal strife within the coalition. However, by the end of Enterprise, the Xindi were portrayed as allies of humanity, recognizing that they had been manipulated by an external force into attacking Earth. Despite their rich history, the Xindi have been largely absent from Star Trek since Enterprise ended. Their return in Section 31 is particularly exciting because it opens up possibilities for exploring what happened to the Xindi after they allied with Earth. Did their coalition remain intact? How did their relationship with the Federation evolve? The political and military capabilities of the Xindi, particularly the ruthless Xindi reptilians and the strategic Xindi aquatics, would make them key players in the morally gray world of Section 31. Moreover, the Xindi's fractured nature as a coalition of different species provides fertile ground for storytelling. If their alliance has weakened over time, it could present an opportunity for Section 31 to exploit those divisions for their own gain, or perhaps help reunify the Xindi for a larger, galaxy-spanning cause. Emperor Yeoh, known for her sharp political instincts, would likely see the value in navigating these complex interspecies dynamics. Why the Suliban and Xindi matter in Section 31. Both the Suliban and Xindi are emblematic of the pre-Federation era, a time when humanity was still earning its place among the stars. Their return in Section 31 could serve as a reminder of the turbulent past that the Federation and its allies overcame, but also a warning that the galaxy is still full of unresolved tensions and dangerous powers. By bringing back these two races, Section 31 has the potential to delve into the darker corners of Star Trek history. The Suliban and Xindi are not merely relics of the past. Their skills, technology, and political complexities make them relevant in the high-stakes world of covert operations and interstellar intrigue. As Section 31 is known for operating outside the usual moral boundaries of Starfleet, both the Suliban and Xindi could be enticed by or opposed to Section 31 as clandestine missions.